Hey friends, and welcome back to this episode where we were interviewed by the Art of Spousing podcast. Our friends James and Lisa Duvall. We had the opportunity to sit down with them and talk about our life, how pornography affected our life, our marriage, how did we work through it, what were the steps, what were the techniques, how did we get through that road?
Yeah, we hope you enjoy this episode.
Travis and Adele, thank you so much for being with us on Art of Spousing. We would love to just start for our listeners to get to know about you and share your marriage story and actually how that led into the creation of the Noble Marriage.
Thank you again for letting us be here to hang out with you guys. And we've been praying over this and excited for the interview. Yeah, so what led us to the Noble Marriage? The story is really like me growing up. I was introduced to pornography at a young age. And ever since then, I felt like my innocence was completely stolen from me. And I have kept these secrets in my life. And we do a lot of coaching with husbands and wife. And that's one of the things we really look into is these secrets that I would desire them. I would desire to have these secrets, but they were so destructive in my life, and they had such a huge impact on how I went through my life, how I saw women, how I interacted with women, the things I would go look at on the internet. It just completely sexualized my mind. And I still wanted to be an innocent boy who loved God and loved people, and there was this dichotomy of two different people in the same skin. Fast forward, and we're married. Those secrets, they just completely destroyed our relationship too. It led me to being unfaithful. It led me to being consuming pornography, or maybe even addicted to pornography, and a lot of other things where these secrets had me trying to fill voids in my life that only God can fill. And those were, alcohol, opiates. I became addicted to those and many other things in my life, shopping and eating problems, and so many things. But it led to the discovery of me being unfaithful. And that has led us to almost 5 years now of figuring out, why did I do that? Why did I completely destroy a relationship that I did not want to destroy? And so we have kind of come to that answer, but in the way of coming to that answer, we have learned great ways of healing our marriage.
Yeah, it was in 2018 when we had just come through a really great summer season in our marriage. I would even say we fell back in love because shortly before that, I was telling my therapist, I don't even love him. What am I going to do? I'm stuck in this marriage. And I really was praying over that and praying that God would just rescue his heart. And I watched him do that because in 2018, he found Jesus in the spring. And so for the next 6 months, we started to enjoy a totally different relationship. I mean, he was really transformed. He was not the same person. And I was really interested in what can this relationship be like? And we fell back in love. And then in October that year is when just a bomb went off in our lives. And it was publicly, it was out there publicly. And so it was just devastating for me to walk through that. I mean, when I think back to those days, they're so blurry because I was in such a dark, deep pain that I had never experienced in my life. And I had, heard of other people walking through infidelity. And, I had this thought process of that's never going to happen to me.
Wow.
We have a perfect marriage, knowing fully it wasn't. There were a lot of things going on under the surface. But we had developed a way of communicating that we avoided all of the important things. We were talking surface stuff, factual things, and that was about it. And so when I found out about the infidelity, this world of perfectionism that I had tried so hard to create and put out there for the world to see just came crashing down. And I think that was so intentional by the Lord. I mean, he was really out to rescue my heart because I was selfish, I was prideful, and at first I was really so broken, at the same time blaming him that this is all his fault. And what the Lord really led me down a path of understanding is, while I, didn't have an affair, I didn't commit adultery, I was still unfaithful in my own heart because I had checked out of the marriage. Wow. And it started to open up personal responsibility for me. So, okay, if I am not responsible for this happening, what am I responsible for in this marriage? And what did I contribute to this marriage? And I was able to see, like, I enabled a lot. I avoided a lot. There were red flags that I chose not to have conversation about. And so I really got to go down this path of discovering how our marriage ended up where it did. And together we were actually able to discover the why. That's what all the couples we work with is, why did this happen to me? And the answer on the other side of that is, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know why I did what I did. No matter if it's a husband or a wife, there's this.
I couldn't answer the question to you when you asked me.
And that's infuriating.
Right.
And so I was so angry to hear him say, I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? You just wrecked our life. And so discovering that why together is what God has called us to share with other couples. Is there's a reason why. And it has nothing to do with the betrayed. And it has everything to do with the heart of the betrayer and the heart of the betrayed. And I believe that when couples go through something as tragic as infidelity, it gives them a unique opportunity, a very special opportunity that other couples don't have access to, because this pain is so deep that when you work through it and you allow God to heal and restore those hearts, there is something so much better on the other side of that. There's love and passion and just a bond of, we got through something that was really horrible together, and be able to build a new marriage. I think a lot of people, they want to get back to the marriage that they had before, but that marriage, you can't have it back. It's gone.
Nor would you want
over. Yeah, exactly. Good point. Why would I want that back? But there is this sense of like, you destroyed it and I want to get back to that, and you can't. And so you have to build something brand new from that. And that's what we are just so passionate about, walking other couples through creating a brand new marriage.
So good. Obviously you touched on, the most important thing is there's what Jesus did in your lives, right? He can do in moments what takes, a long time to do, but there's also some practical things I'm sure that you had to do to find healing and strength in your relationship, to rebuild trust and so forth. So I know that those probably things are not practices that you teach in the whole marriage, but what are some of those you guys had to do to kind of find healing, to create health and strength out of that brokenness?
There is a whole lot that comes to my mind, and I'll just touch on a few just to get us started. The first one is I had to learn how to humble myself. I had to learn to let go of my pride. I had to learn to let go of the shame, that shame blanket, that 50-pound blanket that freaking holds me down and keeps me from hearing what she has to say about her pain and her hurt. Shame will completely, it puts a veil over my eyes and keeps me from being able to see truthfully what's really going on in my relationship. I have to be able to let go of those. I have to be able to listen to understand instead of listen to respond. I have to really listen to what it is you're saying and not have not be listening to like come back at things she's saying, but really listen. What is her heart saying to me? What's behind the words that she's saying? That's a different level of listening that I had to learn. I had to learn personal responsibility. My heart is my problem, my deal. Your heart is your deal. In fact, no one will take care of my heart like I will.
Yeah.
And so I've got to be personally responsible for me. And I didn't want to do that at first. I was a coward.
Nor is that common.
Yeah, it is not common.
It's actually more rare that we see that people are just in integrity and taking responsibility for their actions and their words.
Yeah.
It's just much easier to blame everyone else and everything else.
It started in Genesis 3 when Adam and Eve sinned. They went out and put fig leaves on, and God came after them, which God is always coming after us. Everybody listen to this right now. God is coming after you. And he came after them, and he's like, what happened to you? What are you doing? And first thing they're doing is blaming that woman that you gave me did this. And then she's like, that serpent. But the personal responsibility is like, I did it. I did it. And there's so much freedom that comes when I'm personally responsible for my words and my actions and how I show up in life. I can actually do something with that because that's truth. But I can't do anything with lies, which is victimhood. And so personal responsibility is another one. Let me think for a second.
We call that BCD.
No BCD.
No BCD. No blame, complain, or defending. You know?
Yeah.
Is no. So that it's easy to kind of get in that pattern of blaming or complaining about something or defending yourself. So
Absolutely.
it was say no BCD allowed.
Yeah. I like that.
Forgiveness. Forgiveness is a big one. Knowing what forgiveness is and what forgiveness isn't, and we don't have time to go into that right now, but forgiveness is for you. Forgiveness is for you. Forgiveness is to release you from the prison that you have yourself in. And it's important. It's important to forgive because Christ forgave us first, and that's our model to use. And he freely forgave. And I need to be able to do that too because I get healing when I choose to forgive. Forgiveness of the other person, but more importantly, especially for the betrayer, forgiving yourself for what you have done. And a question that I ask people that is very helpful is if you're choosing not to forgive yourself, how long is that sentence for? And really determining how long that's for so you can have some clarity around that.
Yeah, and I think forgiveness is for the other person in the sense that it may allow them to forgive themselves through your forgiveness. So I saw that in our own relationship, that as I forgave you, you were able to forgive yourself even more.
Yeah. I have more. Do you want me to keep going?
Yeah. Well, I'd love to hear from Adele. Do you have anything, as from your perspective, which you did actually talk a lot about, your own personal responsibility, which is probably, to me, was a powerful thing to say when you actually didn't act on those things, but you're actually going, what's my responsibility in this? We often talk about you draw the circle around yourself and work on everyone in the circle. Exactly. Yeah, it says you're just responsible for yourself. But were there anything, what did you do or how did you rebuild trust, or what did Travis do to rebuild trust in your marriage? Because I would imagine that would be a big thing to overcome.
Yes, that was, it's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. And I know with some couples that we've worked with, the betrayer is very eager for the betrayed to get the healing and move on. And when is she going to trust me? When is he going to trust me again? And those are very normal things to go through, and it's just not an overnight thing. What I really appreciated about Travis, and I'm learning the more we work with couples how rare it is, but I am I just lost my train of thought there.
You're getting healing. What are the ways that we built trust with me or?
Yes. So he was very much about integrity. Integrity is what I say, my actions line up with that. And he redefined himself and who he wanted to be and started showing up that way. And so if he said, I'm going to be loyal to this marriage and, it's just you and me from this point on, then his actions need to line up with exactly what he's saying. And then over time of him doing that, I started to naturally trust him because I was seeing his actions line up with what he's saying. And so the more he showed up in integrity, the more I was trusting. And, we put up a lot of boundaries that I really needed in the beginning. And as that trust has been built, we've been able to readjust our boundaries because I needed things in the beginning that I don't need now. I don't need to know his whereabouts every second of the day, but I needed that in the very beginning. I needed as much disclosure as he could give me to put me at rest because my mind was searching for all the ways that he's dishonest. And so I needed him to really upfront give me honest truth. This is what's going on. This is who I'm calling. This is who I'm texting. This is where I'm going. This is when I'll be back. Little things like that just really helped put my mind at ease so that I could focus on my healing and not focus on what are you doing and are you going to do this again? But I also just want to speak to the spouse that does not have a spouse that's in integrity. And my heart goes out to them because it's a totally different situation on how to rebuild trust when the other spouse is not being trustworthy. And what I just want to say to you is that God is calling you to a deeper connection and relationship with him. And that's really where your focus needs to be. Because when I took my focus off of him and on God, it really gave me a new perspective of my healing journey and what the Lord wanted for me in this. And it also allowed God to really work in Travis without me being in the way. All right. And so there's a letting go, there's a surrender of your spouse, especially if they're not being trustworthy. I mean, the tendency to control is huge, and it becomes a parent-child relationship and it's just really unhealthy. And so learning what does it look like to really surrender your spouse and your marriage over to God?
So good.
That is powerful. As you were talking about that, I actually recently working with a young bride who's navigating some of these things. And would you say that y'all came together? Did you make requests of Travis, like, these are the things I want you to do? Or did you let him come first with, like, these are the things I'm going to do for you? Or was it a collaborative conversation to come to, like, what you needed, which was maybe more boundaries at the beginning, that lesson? How did y'all navigate that?
I am so grateful. We had a therapist that we reached out to immediately. And I was really grateful because she helped me navigate those things. Because in my mind, am I being crazy? Am I crazy for asking these things and requesting these things? Because it's a whole new world that you're in. And so she helped me navigate what was important to me, what did I really need for my healing versus what was just making me angry. And so I needed something because of that.
Good point.
That is great.
And so she helped me really create a list that I did request, Travis. These are the things I really need from you so that I can focus on myself and my own healing. And then I'm just so grateful, said, yes, I will do whatever you need me to do to help your healing. And so, yeah, that's huge.
That's so great.
Yeah. James, you have the next one.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's like, you're looking at me like I'm looking at you.
You look at you.
Yeah.
So I want to take a moment and just turn our attention to the issue of pornography. because sadly it's such a common issue in marriages today. And Travis, I know that's part of your story. So can you talk a little bit about how you found freedom from pornography, and maybe just talk about if somebody's listening today and this is prevalent in their marriage relationship, what are some things that you would say to the individual or to the married couple about this topic?
Yeah. First of all, it's not a man thing. It is a man and a woman thing, and it is an epidemic, and it is horribly destroying people, marriages, relationships, families. It has a ripple effect that is absolutely destructive.
Yeah.
And it just breaks my heart. It breaks my heart that I was involved in that. It breaks my heart that I experienced that. And that it's continuing on, and it's way worse than it ever was when I was a kid. It just breaks my heart. And what's great about it is there's absolute freedom for you listening right now. Absolute freedom that's available to you, for you. And God wants to set you free from this. A couple of things come to my mind. One is, you know what? It may not be pornography. It may be it's many other things, but we're all looking for God. And we're all looking to have this vertical relationship with God that fills us up, that makes me whole and complete, that restores me from my brokenness. But we all go about it different ways. And one of those ways is pornography. And so the first thing I need to really look at is, why am I going after this? Why am I searching for this? And that's the reason, is I've got to fill myself up with God. I've got to have a vertical relationship.
There's also a pain that's being avoided. And so it's an escape.
It is.
It's an escape of pain. And what we have discovered together is there's a root level heart issue. And when Travis really peeled back the layers of his life, he was able to see that root wound that the enemy has had him in bondage over is, I'm unworthy. You know, and those two words, they sound like so small, but I've watched it impact this man's life in astronomical ways. Yeah. And now watching him walk in freedom, he is worthy, because that's who God says he is. Walking in freedom is extremely attractive. I mean, it's hot, babe.
Thanks.
He looks different. He acts different. You know, when someone is showing up unworthy, or maybe it's not good enough, or I'm a failure, or, you know, everyone has something. It doesn't look good on us.
Well, here's what happens when I show up unworthy, when I feel unworthy, when I feel not good enough, when I feel unloved. And by the way, you and 8 billion people listening to this or in the world experience the same thing. When I feel unworthy, my actions are consistent with my feelings. That means that in our marriage, if I feel unworthy, I'm going to show up to you unworthy. And she's going to feel it. She's going to sense it. It's going to happen around anything that we feel. And if you were to think of these filing cabinets, there's a past filing cabinet, a present filing cabinet, and a future filing cabinet. And the filing cabinet has our files of our life in it. And imagine the past filing cabinet has all of our past in it. But what happens is we don't put them to rest there. We take them into our present. Well, we can't be fully present with our family, with our kids, with our spouse, because the past is there. And then going into the future, which is supposed to be empty, because it's future. It's supposed to be full of possibility, but instead is full of predictability, because we take our past and put it into the future, and we have a predictable future that's always based on our past. Wow. And so what we have to do is we have to take our past and we have to settle it. We have to put the file back into the past filing cabinet and shut it, so that we can be fully present right now with our family and have a future full of potential and possibility. And what she's talking about is I had to go back and say, hey, you know what? When I was molested as a child, I felt unworthy. When I saw pornography for the first time, I felt unworthy. And it kept going that way through the rest of my life. And by the way, we all have something that happened to us in our childhood that put some type of thorn, the lie that Satan will write on our heart, that you are something. You are something that's not the way God created you to be. And God created you to be powerful.
Yeah.
You are loved. You are cherished. You are chosen. You are redeemed through Christ. But the enemy doesn't want you to believe that.
Yeah.
That's right. No, and the cycle is the feeling of unworthy creates the bondage in the sin,
It does.
because the person on the screen thinks I'm worthy,
Yeah.
or that person outside my marriage thinks I'm worthy, because we're looking to fulfill the lack that I have. And so, discovering that why has been extremely eye-opening on how the enemy really works. And he starts when we are kids, and he uses that as we get older.
Yeah. I want to throw a few more things out there about it.
Yeah.
So what can happen is we can say, you know what, thank you, Travis. That's great information. I really want to do those things, and I am solid on my identity. I'm solid on a purpose. I'm going to take my past and I'm going to put it in the past where it belongs. And you know what, I'm not going to come into agreement with the lies of the enemy. I'm going to believe God's truth. Thank you, Travis, for all that. But you know what? We still have a subconscious program that has us doing the things that we do on a daily basis. Like when you brush your teeth, you don't think about it. When you drive to work, you don't think about how you got there. There's a subconscious program. And so we have to retrain our body. We have to retrain our mind. So all this stuff that I gave is great, but we still have to have actions that go along with it. Things like software to be able to have accountability, have an accountability group of same-sex people that love you, that love Jesus, and want something good for your marriage. Those are the criteria that I would give anyone, and that will call you out and have good, hard questions for you. That's important for an accountability group. So there's things that we need to do because we need to reprogram our mind, and that's going to take some time, usually around 63 days. It takes 63 days to reprogram 3 groups of 21 to reprogram our mind, our subconscious. So those are just a couple of thoughts that I have.
That's scriptural. Apostle Paul said to be transformed by the renewing of your mind. It's there is a transformational process that happens in your mind. And so I think that's really great that you brought that up.
Yeah. Go ahead. I was just going to say, I think what couples are really missing, and this is what has blown my mind so much being on the other side of pornography, is that there a lot of times when the person that has this secret of pornography, when they are found out, it's almost like, oh, now I can't do that anymore. And it's because of her or because of him or whatever it looks like in the marriage, but there's a loss of something in their life, even though it's a sin that they don't want. But what has blown my mind is what they're missing out on because pornography is in the picture.
Yes.
Because God designed sex to be so wonderful, and the impact that pornography has on the human brain is it alters the brain. It takes away the ability to experience pleasure, not just sexually, but in life, because it is a super stimulus. So that means it is stimulating the brain so much that real life just can't stimulate us.
Sure.
And so there's this, you don't do it for me. And so I got to go outside the marriage to get it. And if couples could just really get that the best sexual intimacy and intimacy alone involves a covenant within the marriage that is monogamous.
Yeah.
And, it is a priority. Like God will bless your intimacy in your life. And oh my gosh, it has just been so incredible to rediscover our sex life after pornography, after the transformation of the body and the mind. So that's what I really wish couples knew more about, is there's something wonderful that's waiting for you, but you have to let go of it first.
There's so much hope in what y'all have talked about. I mean, there's like so much hope that I know that listeners that are going, I'm in the middle of this, and I don't see how I'm going to get to the end of it. Great practical tools. But, you know, one of the cool things that I of course, I get the privilege of seeing the two of you interact, but I know that people are going to hear it. But the honor that you have for one another, and just, it's just beautiful. And I have this kind of dialogue that's honest, but honoring and healthy, is just that model so much. And I'm so excited for there's so many layers of just great healing in this conversation. Now, I know you guys have written some resources. Would you, what have you created that you would recommend for couples listening today that they're maybe find themselves in this situation?
The first thing that comes to, well, first of all, thank you. Wow. Thank you for that acknowledgement. I really appreciate that. And, man.
I do feel honored by you.
Wow.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
It's obvious. Yeah.
Yeah. That one kind of got me. So yes, God has called us to provide resources because we do individual and we do marriage coaching and with intensives, and we have discovered that we don't have the ability to keep up with the amount of people, the demand that's reaching out to us, and we want to help. And so we created an online academy that has multiple courses on it, but more specifically, there's one course that I would highly recommend based on this topic, or infidelity or betrayal of any kind, and that is Walking Through Betrayal. It is a 9-session series, and it is really a guide, a step-by-step guide that the betrayer and the betrayed can parallel walk the road of healing together. Because what we found is when this happens, if both couples want to get healing, they kind of don't know where to go or what to do, and they go get healing separately, and usually there's not the same type of healing, and sometimes they get pulled apart. But in this right here, they're both going to walk together, and it's going to be a God-honoring way of getting the healing, this step-by-step that will address everything that we have thought of, that the Holy Spirit has provided to us. In a 9-session series, it's really not that long. I think the videos are like 15 minutes, 10 minutes.
Very digestible. And it's also designed for individuals that have a spouse that just doesn't want to go down the healing journey. You still deserve healing. And it's so important that we take care of the wounds that are in our heart. And so an individual can walk through this course. They can watch all the videos, or they can choose to only watch the videos that pertain to them. And so that's what's unique about this. And that is what I would say would be best for couples that are in the middle of this crisis. Like, they are in the thick of it, because that will help guide them through like the grief and guilt and shame, and how to have communication, what questions to ask. I mean, we
create an emotionally safe place for each other to share.
Yeah. And so this, I would say that would be for betrayal. And then the next step after that, and we talked about a few things from that course today, is called Becoming Whole and Complete. And that is looking at me. Like, God, what do you want to do in me through this crisis that you're allowing me to go through? And it is about personal responsibility and personal growth. And it is it is the why that we were talking about. It's how to find it. And so they go side by side really beautifully, but either one would really support anyone who's going through betrayal or any kind of crisis in marriage.
Yeah. So we have the Villalon Academy. Mm-hmm. We're in the process of writing a book that will be a complement to that particular course. We have no idea when that will be coming out, but we do have an online community that will help support that book through Walking Through Betrayal.
Yeah, it's a community where couples can connect with each other, support each other, but also we are looking to have engagement about the creation of this book. And so we'll be asking questions and sharing feedback and just learning more about where are the couples that are hearing our story, where are they at in their story, to connect us and help us, really know how we can help these couples best.
And I have one last one. We have YouTube, The Noble Marriage, and all that's free. And there's 160 something videos on there. And then Right Now Media and all that. If you have an account, that's free too. We're on Right Now Media.
Well, thank you guys for joining us today. This has been fantastic. I know there's going to be a lot of good fruit from this. But we just pray blessing on your ministry, and just God has He's taken that the enemy meant for evil, and you literally have out that He is using it for good. And so we love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us today. It was such an honor.
We are excited to introduce to you our online community. It's called Rebuilding Marriage Chapter by Chapter, and it's designed to help you heal from betrayal and rebuild your marriage. We will be offering a wealth of resources, advice, workshops, personal stories, exercises, and so much more. This is in a private setting where you can connect with other couples who understand exactly what you're going through. We believe that healing and rebuilding marriage incrementally is much like turning the pages of a book. And so we wanted to create a unique opportunity for a transformative journey, chapter by chapter, as we write our book, to help each couple rebuild trust, nurture emotional connection, and cultivate a much stronger foundation for your marriage. So we would love for you to join this community. We want to support you every step of the way in your healing. And as we write our book, we will be using our community as a test audience for the content that will be in our book. We'll be sharing the exercises, journaling topics, and other activities that we have found really helpful in our own healing journey. We want to make sure that the book the Lord has called us to write is as helpful as possible for couples who are struggling to rebuild their marriage after betrayal. And we believe that as we go through this content, it will help you heal in a God-honoring way, surrounded by other couples all doing the work to heal. So we would love for you to join our community today and be a part of this transformative journey in your own marriage. So you can click the link to find out more about that.